Did you know your breakfast could unlock the secret to abstract thinking? Today we're proving Jean Piaget's wildest theory. The formal operational stage, the pinnacle of human cognition, is best tested by making waffles. Forget labs and textbooks. We're using a hot iron, some batter, and your brain to answer, can you handle the ultimate cognitive challenge? Piaget claimed that by age 12, humans gain the power to think like scientists. Solving algebra, debating ethics, fixing a broken recipe. That's the formal operational stage in action. But how do waffles prove this? Because this recipe isn't just delicious. It's a test of abstract reasoning, hypothetical problem solving, and whether you can handle what happens when things go wrong. What if the batter's too thick? What if you forget the baking powder? Dense waffles, a collapsed experiment. But here's the twist. Formal operational thinkers don't panic. They ask what variables changed: flour, milk, time. They hypothesize, they experiment, they adapt. Ready to see if your brain can rise to the occasion? Stick around and don't forget to subscribe. Cognitive Kitchen, where brains meet batters. Welcome to Cognitive Kitchen, where we turn recipes into psychology lessons. Today we're tackling one of Jean Piaget's most fascinating ideas, the formal operational stage, the highest level of cognitive development, where humans learn to think like scientists. And we're doing it with waffles. Why? Because this isn't just about breakfast. It's about understanding how your brain solves problems, imagines possibilities, and adapts when things go sideways. You might be wondering, what does a waffle iron have to do with psychology? Simple. The same skills you use to troubleshoot a sticky batter, adjusting ratios, predicting outcomes, experimenting with heat, are the exact skills Piaget described in his theory. While other channels teach you to cook, we're here to prove that cooking can teach you. Here's the big idea. Piaget argued that by around age 12, most people gain the ability to think abstractly. That means solving algebra problems, debating ethics, or even redesigning a recipe without trial and error. But abstract thinking isn't just for classrooms or labs. It's in your kitchen every time you ask, what if I swap almond milk for regular? Or why did my waffle collapse? Today's recipe isn't just a recipe, it's a cognitive workout. We'll show you how mixing flour and milk mirrors the scientific method, how baking powder becomes a lesson in cause and effect, and how a burnt waffle teaches resilience. By the end, you'll not only have a delicious snack, but also a deeper grasp of how your mind tackles complexity. Stick around. We're blending psychology with pancake batter, proving that the best lessons don't come from textbooks. They come from the sizzle of a waffle iron and the joy of figuring things out. Ready to cook? Let's dive in. Jean Piaget, the Swiss psychologist who revolutionized our understanding of how minds grow, believed human thinking evolves through distinct stages. By the time we reach adolescence, most of us enter what he called the formal operational stage, the pinnacle of human cognition. This is the phase where we stop relying solely on what we can touch, see, or directly experience. Instead, we gain the power to think abstractly, reason hypothetically, and solve problems in our heads before they ever happen in real life. Imagine a child trying to understand why a pancake flips better with a spatula than a fork. A younger mind might just accept it as magic or repeat trial and error until it works. But someone in the formal operational stage, they hypothesize, maybe the fork's prongs let air escape too quickly, or what if I tilt the pan instead? They test ideas mentally, predict outcomes, and adjust variables, all without dropping a single flapjack. That's the leap Piaget described. This stage isn't just about kitchen hacks. It's the foundation for algebra, ethics, and even daydreaming about alternate futures. Think about debating a question like, is it ever fair to take food from someone else to feed your hungry family? To grapple with that, you need to juggle hypotheticals, weigh moral frameworks, and consider perspectives beyond your own. Concrete thinkers might struggle with these invisible complexities. Formal operational thinkers thrive in them. But here's the catch. Abstract ideas are, well, abstract. How do you show something like hypothetical deductive reasoning on a screen? How do you make systematic problem-solving feel as tangible as a bowl of batter? That's where our waffles come in. The same skills Piaget identified, imagining variables, predicting chemical reactions, troubleshooting a collapsed recipe, are baked right into this breakfast staple. When you ask, "What if I forgot the baking powder?" Or "Why does the batter bubble when it hits the iron?" You're not just cooking, you're thinking like a scientist. And if your waffle turns out dense or burnt, you don't give up. You ask, which variable went wrong? Exactly the question Piaget saw as the hallmark of mature thought. So, while textbooks might describe the formal operational stage as a dry milestone in cognitive development, today, we're proving it's alive and sizzling in your kitchen. Ready to see how your brain measures up? Let's mix the science with the syrup. So, how does a waffle recipe test abstract thinking? Simple. The formal operational stage is all about hypothetical deductive reasoning, like guessing what'll happen if the batter's too thick, and testing it. If your waffle collapses, you don't cry. You ask, what variables changed? Flour, milk, time? That's Piaget's genius in action. The same way a scientist adjusts one factor at a time, you tweak your recipe, predict outcomes, and solve problems invisibly. Even baking powder becomes a lesson in cause and effect. Add too little, dense waffles; too much, bitter, volcanic mess. But formal operational thinkers don't panic. They imagine the reaction before it happens, then adapt. This recipe isn't just breakfast, it's a lab. Every step mirrors Piaget's framework: questioning, hypothesizing, experimenting. By the time you flip that golden waffle, you've lived the theory. Ready to see it in action? Let's mix, cook, and think like scientists. Let's get cooking and thinking. This recipe isn't just about breakfast. It's a hands-on experiment in Piaget's formal operational stage. Grab your ingredients and let's see how your brain measures up. Step 1. The variables. Start with 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and a pinch of salt. These ingredients aren't random. They're the foundation of a hypothesis. Flour gives structure. Baking powder? That's the chemical time bomb we talked about. When it meets liquid, it releases gas, creating those fluffy air pockets. But here's the twist. What if you forget the baking powder, or use too much? A dense waffle? A bitter one? This is where formal operational thinkers shine. They don't just follow the recipe. They predict outcomes and test variables mentally before mixing a single spoonful. Step 2. Mixing the batter. Add an egg and a splash of milk. Stir until smooth. See those bubbles forming? That's science in action. The baking powder's sodium bicarbonate reacts with the egg's acidity, creating carbon dioxide. But if you skip the egg or use water instead of milk, the reaction falters. A concrete thinker might blame the waffle iron. A formal operational thinker asks, what caused the collapse? Was it the lack of protein or too little fat? This step isn't just mixing, it's a live experiment in cause and effect. Step 3. The heat test. Pour the batter onto a hot waffle iron. Sizzle. Why does heat matter? It's not just about cooking, it's about transformation. The Maillard reaction, the same process that browns steak, creates that golden crust. But if the iron's too hot, the outside burns before the inside sets. If it's too cool, a soggy mess. Adjusting the temperature mirrors Piaget's idea of systematic problem solving, tweaking one variable at a time to find balance. Step 4. The reality check. Lift the iron. Is your waffle perfect? If not, don't panic. Burnt? Maybe the heat was too high. Gooey in the center? Perhaps it needed more time. This is where abstract thinking wins. You're not just fixing a mistake. You're analyzing variables, revising hypotheses, and adapting. Piaget called this skill hypothetical deductive reasoning, but we'll call it waffle wisdom. Final step. The proof is in the bite slice. Into that golden square. See those air pockets? They're proof of invisible forces, gas trapped by gluten, heat reshaping structure. You believed in a reaction you couldn't see, trusted the process, and now you're rewarded. That's the essence of the formal operational stage, solving problems in your head before they happen in real life. So did your brain rise to the occasion? Whether your waffle's a masterpiece or a learning moment, you've just lived Piaget's theory. Ready to test another hypothesis? Let's flip to the next step and the next big idea. Let's pause the recipe for a moment. Not because we're done, but because we're at the most critical part. This is where your brain earns its lab coat. You've already mixed your batter, poured it into the waffle iron and watched it sizzle. But now, let's break the recipe. Not out of accident, on purpose. Because that's what formal operational thinkers do. They test boundaries. They ask, what if? Scenario 1. No baking powder. Imagine skipping the baking powder entirely. Just flour, milk, egg. What happens? You pour the batter into the iron, close the lid, wait, and lift it to find a flat, dense slab. No air pockets, no fluff. It's edible, sure, but it's more pancake than waffle. Why? Baking powder is the unsung hero here. When it hits liquid, it releases carbon dioxide gas, creating bubbles trapped by gluten. Without it, the structure collapses. A concrete thinker might shrug and reach for syrup. A formal operational thinker pauses. What caused this? They mentally rewind. Did the flour change? No. The egg? Still there. The heat? Same as before. The missing variable? Baking powder. They didn't need to cook it twice. They could have predicted this failure by imagining the chemistry. That's the power of hypothetical reasoning. Scenario 2. Double the baking powder. Now let's go the other way. Double the baking powder. Pour the batter in, wait for the magic, and watch. It erupt. The waffle rises too fast, cracks open like a volcano, and tastes bitter. Why? Too much gas overwhelms the batter's structure. The excess baking powder also disrupts flavor. Again, a formal operational thinker doesn't just react, they analyze. Was it the quantity of gas? The timing of the reaction? They adjust their mental model. Baking powder isn't just about lift, it's about balance. This is Piaget's systematic problem-solving in action. You're not guessing, you're isolating variables, testing hypotheses, and refining your understanding. It's the same skill a teenager uses to solve algebra equations or debate ethics, except here the stakes are edible. The aha moment. Invisible forces made visible. Here's the kicker. You can't see the gas forming. You trust the science because you've connected cause and effect. Piaget called this ability deductive reasoning, using logic to predict outcomes without trial and error. When you added the baking powder earlier, you didn't hesitate. You believed in the reaction before it happened, and when it worked, that golden, crisp waffle with those perfect air pockets, that's proof. Proof that your brain didn't just follow steps, it orchestrated a chemical symphony. You adjusted variables, anticipated results, and adapted when things went sideways. You thought like a scientist. Why this matters beyond the kitchen. This isn't about breakfast. It's about how humans grow into thinkers. Before the formal operational stage, kids struggle with abstract problems. Ask a 7-year-old, if you had 3 apples and ate 2, how many would you have left? They'll answer correctly. But ask, if you had 3 apples and ate half of them, how many would you have left? They might count on their fingers, or give up. They need concrete examples to grasp abstract math. By adolescence, though, the brain changes. Suddenly, you can imagine variables without touching them, solve puzzles in your head, debate hypotheticals. That's the leap Piaget mapped, and the leap we just lived through a waffle recipe. So next time you tweak a recipe, argue about a moral dilemma, or solve a physics problem, remember, your brain is doing exactly what Piaget described. It's not just cooking, it's experimenting, adapting, and proving that abstract thought isn't some distant theory. It's right here in every bite. Ready to finish the recipe? Let's flip to the final steps and savor the science. Let's finish this. You've poured your batter onto the iron, watched it sizzle, and now the real magic happens. As the waffle cooks, something subtle but powerful unfolds. The Maillard reaction. Sugars and proteins dance under heat, turning your batter into a golden masterpiece. But here's the kicker. You can't see this chemistry in action. You trust it because you understand the science behind it. That's the hallmark of the formal operational stage, believing in invisible forces, whether they're chemical reactions or abstract principles. Now imagine the edge of your waffle starts to burn. What do? A concrete thinker might panic, scraping at the charred bits, but you adjust, lower the heat, shift the iron. You hypothesize that too much time or temperature caused the problem, and you fix it. This isn't just cooking. It's systematic problem solving. Piaget's theory in motion. Time to flip the waffle. Does it release easily, crisp and intact? If so, you've mastered balance. Just like in cognitive development. Too much flour, too little heat, the wrong ratio of ingredients. Any one variable could have derailed this experiment. But you accounted for it. You didn't just follow steps. You anticipated pitfalls, adapted variables, and trusted your mental model. That's hypothetical deductive reasoning, the engine of abstract thought. Slice into your waffle. Look at those air pockets, proof of gas trapped by gluten, proof that unseen forces shape what we eat. Did you know this would happen when you added the baking powder? Of course, you believed in a reaction you couldn't see, and now you're rewarded with fluff. Piaget would call this cognitive equilibrium, when your predictions align with reality and your mind settles into new understanding. But what if it didn't work? What if your waffle collapsed or tasted bitter? Then you'd ask, what changed? Flour, milk, time. You'd test new variables, revise your hypothesis, and try again. That's the beauty of the formal operational stage. Failure isn't an end, it's data. So as you plate your waffle, remember, this isn't just breakfast. It's a testament to how your brain tackles complexity. You predicted, you adjusted, you trusted science over sight, and in doing so, you've lived Piaget's highest stage of thinking. Ready for another experiment? Let's drizzle some syrup and savor the science. Let's take a step back and savor what just happened. You didn't just make waffles, you tested hypotheses, adjusted variables, and solved problems in your head before they ever hit the iron. That's not magic. That's the formal operational stage in full swing. And if your brain just clicked into place like a perfectly risen waffle, you're not alone. Here's the recipe for this stage of thinking. Start with curiosity, mix in imagination, and bake under the heat of trial and error. Piaget wasn't wrong when he called this the pinnacle of cognitive development. This is where we stop relying on what we can touch, taste, or see and start wrestling with ideas that live entirely in our minds. Algebra, ethics, climate change, they're all abstract puzzles that demand the same skills you use today. What if? Why? How? But here's the bigger picture. These skills aren't just for classrooms or labs, they're for life. The next time you debate whether to take a new job, fix a broken appliance, or argue about fairness with a friend, you'll be using this same mental framework. You'll be the scientist in your own kitchen, tweaking variables until things work. So, did this experiment teach you something new about your brain? Did the connection between baking powder and hypothetical reasoning click? If so, you're not the only one. Piaget's theory often feels distant, like a dusty textbook chapter. But today, you lived it. You saw how invisible forces shape outcomes, how failure fuels discovery, and how even the simplest recipe can crack open the mysteries of human thought. A question for you. When was the last time you used formal operational thinking outside the kitchen? Maybe you troubleshot a tech issue, debated a moral dilemma, or even reorganized your closet with a plan. Share your story in the comments. Let's build a plate of real-life examples, because abstract thinking isn't just for scientists. It's for everyone. And if you're feeling inspired, why stop here? Try applying this mindset to another recipe. Swap ingredients, adjust ratios, ask, what if? The more you experiment, the sharper your cognitive tools become. After all, Piaget didn't just describe a stage, he described a way of engaging with the world. One hypothesis, one waffle, one aha moment at a time. Thanks for cooking and thinking with us. Until next time, keep your mind hungry and your spatula ready. If you've made it this far, first, congratulations on surviving a kitchen experiment that doubled as a crash course in cognitive science. Second, thank you for joining us in proving that learning doesn't have to be dry, dusty, or confined to a lecture hall. Today, you didn't just follow a recipe. You tested hypotheses, adjusted variables, and solved problems like a true formal operational thinker. And hey, you ended up with a waffle. That's a win-win. This is what Cognitive Kitchen is all about, showing how psychology isn't some abstract theory. It's alive in every flip of the spatula, every tweak to a recipe, every what if that leads to discovery. Piaget's ideas might sound academic, but they're baked right into how we learn, grow, and even salvage a burnt breakfast. Now here's the part where we ask you to hit that subscribe button. Why? Because if you liked seeing how a waffle can explain human cognition, you'll love what's next. We've got plans to tackle egocentrism with spaghetti, conservation with jelly, and maybe even symbolic function with Play-Doh. Yes, really. This channel is your kitchen table gateway to understanding how minds work. One bite-sized, brain-bending episode at a time. So before you go, drop a comment. What Piaget concept has always confused you? Or share your own aha moment from today's lesson. And if this video sparked your curiosity, or at least made you think twice about baking powder, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for cooking with us. Remember, brains develop, recipes evolve. See you in the next episode of Cognitive Kitchen, where every dish serves up a side of science.